welcome to today's class, which is another Pilates flow, introducing more of our classical mat exercises. So I do 24 out of the 34. We did 7 in the first class in number 1, and we're going to do add another 6. We're going to do those 7, add another 6, so 13 of the classical mat exercises. Let's get going with a really nice but slightly odd warm-up. So we're going to twiddle the fingers, walking around a little bit, maybe rolling through the feet, maybe getting your shoulders twiddling, rolling around. Be slightly weird, it's absolutely fine. We just want to warm up the body. So as you've probably realised, especially if you did the first class, the classical mat stuff is very sort of fixed. Your body positions are very fixed. We just want to get going with moving a little bit more to the corners and the edges of the body. Maybe reaching to the side, whatever you like, just get everything moving around. Maybe twiddling those ankles around. And then when you've had enough of that, so just a few minutes of that, let's bring our feet completely together and let's sort of contrast that with clasping our hands, pulling our elbows to the side of the room and trying to pull the hands apart. Really setting your central line, squeezing the legs together a little bit, lifting the tailbone, lifting the crown of the head up towards the ceiling, sending the tailbone down so that we're lengthening the spine. Take a breath in. Pull the hands apart, feel the ribcage expanding, take a breath out and push the hands together. As you push the hands together and you're breathing out, you're going to notice that funneling down of the ribcage and lift your pelvic floor a little bit. Swap the hands, which hand was on top, breath in, feel the ribcage expanding, breath out, drawing everything in towards that belly button. Notice when you're pulling the hands apart, that connection around the shoulder blades at the back. As usual, I'm not very good at doing my breathing and talking, trying to change the hands around as well. So waking up the bracing element of class. Wonderful. Okay, let's take the legs nice and wide. Slightly outside the shoulder width apart, arms are up to the ceiling. A big swing down and coming up. Taking a double arm circle to start with, but I'm really relaxed in this double arm circle. It could just be a big shoulder roll if you like. My fingertips, I don't know whether you can hear, but they're just brushing the floor each time. Making sure the knees are over the toes. Then let's take a big swing on its own and then 4 circles back, 4 loose swimming back, and then again when you get to the top, taking one arm back. I just need to step forwards a little bit actually, and then the other arm. I think I've done a few more there. Big swing, double arm circle this time, changing it up a bit, single arm, rotating, so loose swimming, one last one. Try and start with the other arm. Whee. Good, so we're getting that nice bit of very relaxed rotation. Let's think about the collarbone, the chest, the shoulders, bringing the arms forwards and backwards in I call this butterfly arms. And if I go to the side, as I reach my arms forwards and push my rib cage back, I'm tucking my pelvis under, using my deep abdominals, opening up the chest, turning the palms up, turning the palms down. So little fingers are high, little fingers are on top as you come through here. But no right or wrong. Try and maybe have a different arm on top each time. And it's also thinking about rounding that collarbone forwards and then backwards, shifting the rib cage forwards and backwards. Brilliant, perfect. Okay, back to feet nice and wide. Sweeping one arm across, brushing the ceiling. The other arm is going to follow it and you're going to go to the side of your body. Bending your knees, both hands are on the side of that thigh and I'm looking down at the floor there. So I've turned my shoulders, reaching the arm across. So this is our side bends with, again, a little bit of rotation in that torso and in that spine. Trying to get everything warmed up, ready for that tough classical mat work. Let's add on, as you bring your hands to your side of your leg, bring your feet together. As you reach the arm out, step out sideways, bring the arms up and over, bring the feet together again. Reach and step, and there. Breath in as you go up, breath out when you get there. And your step to the side can be as big or not as you like. But try and get that reaching up, that sideways, then that lovely rotation. This is a sideways stretch first. Last one, finishing off there. Hope you're getting warm. I'm certainly getting breathless as I'm talking through this. Fantastic. Let's take those side steps again. Just putting my legs up. We're going to have the feet turned out. So in a Pilates first position, a ballet first position, not overly turned out, but just a nice angle towards the corner. We're going to step to the side and take a little curtsy, tucking the knee in behind you. This is a nice warm up for the legs, getting that alignment of the knees over the toes, pitching your body forwards a little bit so there's a hip hinge going on, and hopefully naturally you will bring the opposite arm forwards to that leg that's at the front. Make sure you're tucking your other foot in behind you. And if you do class with me regularly, you will see this movement again. It's not, it's not going to come back into our classical mat class today, but it will be coming up in the future. So we're there. Great, just a nice warm up for the hips. Let's stand on one leg. So stand on your weaker leg, if you know you've got one for one leg standing. And today I just want you to challenge your standing on one leg by swinging the other leg around a little bit. I was going to do some leg circles. You could do some of those, go in both directions. But essentially I just want you to stand on one leg, the knee slightly soft, allow that ankle to wobble about. Move your arms so that it's helping you to balance. Just try not to put the other leg down unless you really have to. We're keeping our centre of gravity, and it's quite hard when the other leg is moving around. You're having to adjust all the time, but that's great. When that starts to feel a little bit achy, swap legs, give a bit of a shake first, and then we're just moving that leg around. So all the stuff we normally would do, we'd be taking some circles here, making sure you're lifting your rib cage off of your hips, changing direction, maybe a little swing at the back. Oops, put my toe down then. Crossing over at the front, this feels a bit tango-esque. Maybe lifting out to the side, maybe taking the arms a bit bigger, maybe challenging yourself by taking that body forwards and backwards, using that leg that's in the air as a bit of a counterbalance, as your tail, which is coming back to that last move, that curtsy step, like a speed skater side to side. We will be doing that and turning it into a balance exercise. Okay, great. Fantastic. Let's go really nice and wide with your legs and your legs nice and parallel. For a hip hinge forwards, hinging from your hips, does what it says on the tin. Basically we're looking to stretch those hamstrings, keeping the back of the neck nice and long. If I just turn sideways, have a little look. You don't need to go any lower than 90 degrees or your chest parallel to the floor, but it's very tempting to be there, to have your chin lifted. Therefore you're crunching the back of the neck a little bit. Keep that chin tucked in. Find your biting point for your hamstrings and then coming up. The only thing that's changing is this angle at the front of the hips. Maybe pop your hands on your shoulders with your elbows sticking out to the side, so creating this nice straight line from elbow to elbow. This keeps the collarbone nice and broad, and then when you're forwards in your hip hinge, again, if I look in my monitor, Obviously that's putting my neck in the wrong place, but if I look at my monitor I can see I've still got that straight line across my collarbone from elbow to elbow. What we tend to do sometimes is round the shoulders and let those shoulder tips drop. We want to be really lengthened out there, and then that will give us that good hamstring stretch. Which, as you will know, if you've been doing any of the classical exercises, or just Pilates in general, you need a decent length in the hamstrings. You need, otherwise it just restricts you. Restricts the stuff that you can comfortably do. And obviously we all want to be able to, ultimately, reach down and touch the floor to put our shoes on, whatever we're doing in everyday life. So it's perfectly relevant to everyday life. Let's come upright. Let's bring the heels in slightly. So we're now angling the legs out to the corners, just very slightly, and we're going to take a deep squat. So hinge from the hips. The difference now is we're going to bend the knees, bend at the ankles, send that bottom back, and I'm just, trying to adjust myself in the monitor. I'll blame the monitor being a bit skew with. So what I'm looking at for myself, my own body, is that I've got perfect symmetry. So knees are going over the toes. I'm not favouring one side or the other. I've got the same amount of gap at the sides of my body on both sides. That's the bit that I'm struggling to adjust in the mirror, because it's a reflection. I'm just not going to look at it too much. I think that's about right. Good, so sending that bottom back, knees are going over the toes. We're looking to mobilise hips, warm up the backs of the legs. Great, let's now just change those two things. So we're going to alternate between the two. So heels are in slightly for the squat. I'm standing up, I'm pushing my heels out. Now my legs are parallel. I'm just going to pop my little fingers into that crease at the tops of my thighs to hinge forwards for the hamstring stretch. Coming upright, bringing the heels in slightly, still hinging, but now bending the knees. Trying maybe to drop those hips down a little bit lower, which if you keep your feet parallel will be quite difficult. Try it if you like. So remember, you're keeping the chin tucked in for the straight leg hamstring stretch, wide leg hamstring stretch. Bringing those heels in, making sure the knees go over the toes. Again, keeping the chin tucked in, the back of the neck is nice and long. Pushing the heels out, lengthening forwards. Keeping those collarbone nice and straight. The collarbone pretty much stays in the same position for this next one as well. Wonderful, let's do one more of each. Heels are out, lengthening forwards, coming upright, bringing the heels in, making sure the knees going over the toes. There you go. It's me in the centre. Great, and give the legs a bit of a shake. Perfect. You'll be glad to know, maybe, that that's the end of the warm-up. Just a quick mobilising. We're going to come back to starting. Our first exercise is going to be the press-up. Pilates press-up. I'm going to show you quickly, and then I'm going to move my monitor down. So this is how I'd like you to do your Pilates press-up. Your feet parallel and hip width apart, so not too wide. Dropping the chin onto the chest. Remember, you're keeping your pelvis in neutral, softening the knees. So we've got that nice roll down. 3 or 4 walks out with the hands into the plank. Fingers facing forwards underneath your shoulders. Lower your knees, tuck the elbows in. That's a 1 press up. 3 press ups each time. You could drop your knees down and bring your knees forwards so you're in more of a square box position. Still tucking those elbows in. You could, and I might be able to do 1, tuck the elbows in, whole body down to the floor, straighten those arms. If you're in this position, the most advanced position, lift your hips up, walk your hands back, soft knees, roll up through the spine. 3 sets of those all together. I'm going to keep the camera where it is as we do these together, and then I'm going to lower it. So feet are parallel, taking that nice roll down, chin onto the chest, pelvis in neutral for as long as possible,
Soften the knees as soon as you need to. Hang from your waist, nod your head, shake your head. Walk out. 4 strong steps. Hold that plank position momentarily. Lower the knees. If you're lowering your knees, relax your feet. Tuck the elbows in so they brush past your rib cage. 3, 2, and 1. Curl the toes under, lift the hips. There's your downward dog. Walk the hands back. Soft knees, roll up through the spine.
Head is the last thing. Up we're going again. Chin onto your chest.
Let those arms hang. Soften the knees. Walking out into the plank. Remember to spread the fingers and the thumbs. Hold those legs nice and straight. Lower the knees, relax the toes. Bring the knees in if you need to. Forwards towards your hands. Otherwise, breath in as you lower. Breath out as you straighten. Curling the toes under, lift the hips, walk the hands back. Soften the knees, rolling up.
Here's the last one.
Chin onto the chest, let those arms hang. Round the shoulders, soften the knees. Relax, walking forwards. Try and walk with a different hand each time. I only just managed it that last time. Drop the knees down, keep those shoulder blades drawn down in your back towards your hips. Tuck those elbows in. We're starting to get a little bit tired, or I am. Curl the toes under. Lift your hips. There's that lovely downward dog stretch. There's a great hamstring stretch. Rolling all the way up.
And we're coming down to the floor for a seated C curve next. Okay, so we are down on the floor, sitting right up on our sit bones, hands underneath the backs of the knees, feet and knees hip width apart. We're taking our seated C curve, which is basically our warm up for rolling like a ball. Number 2 of 13 of the exercises that we're going to do today. The whole point of this, and this is something, the seated C curve is something I quite often do in class, but we want to take that nice strong pelvic tilt. We want to scoop that tummy out. Stay in that rounded shape until we come forwards, the shoulders are over the hips and then sitting tall. This is our warm up. This is the warm up to create that curve from the top of your head to your sacrum for rolling like a ball, and a couple of other exercises that are coming afterwards. Rounding the spine, staying rounded, and then sitting tall, so that you know the difference between a neutral spine and that rounded spine, and you're controlling it from your deep abdominals, your pelvic floor, that whole area. Let's move on into rolling like a ball. I'm going to show you each time the most advanced version. So this is with the hands crossing over. I'm holding onto one wrist, hugging the knees in quite tightly and just coming back a little bit so that your toes are just touching the floor. I'm going to draw my belly button in nice and tight. I'm creating that rounded shape in my spine, and it's as if I'm sort of hanging back into the back line of my body. And I'm going to take a breath in. Hopefully I'm going to do this well. And take a breath in. As I breathe out, I'm going to deepen that curve, roll back. Oh, not too bad. I overshot a little bit on the way back up. So rounding, not rounding at all actually, sorry, staying in that rounded shape. Scooping the tummy. You just feel that little tip back, and then once you find how much oomph you need, it should be nice and smooth. So a couple of alternatives to this. You can have the legs apart, toes together, arms on your shins, and my elbows lifted, so that creates a bit more of a relaxed ball shape. This feels quite nice. Ideally, we want to keep this gap the same, this gap the same. We want the elbows to be rounded and lifted, but the shoulders drawn down. The effect is the same, the spine stays in its natural curves. Hopefully it feels quite nice, it's quite a nice massage on the whole of your spine. Brilliant. Okay, we are going into single leg stretch. The link for single leg stretch and what we've just done is that your spine is going to be in the same shape. You've just rolled down onto the floor. And then once you get there and most of your back is on the floor, my spine is in exactly the same shape as it just was. I'm going to hug one knee in, really pulling that knee into my shoulder, keeping the shin and the knee nice and straight, as in not letting it rotate out. This shin should be parallel to the floor, both feet at the same height, opposite hand hanging onto that knee to pull it in, the same arm as the leg, reaching down to reach towards your toes, which keeps that upper body up. I'm going to swap legs and hold this one and just work out how it feels on this side. So checking all those things. This leg nice and parallel. It might want to turn out so that knee goes into your shoulder. Try not to let that happen. Again, this is what this arm is, that outside arm is quite helpful for. Reaching forwards and then we're switching and switching. Breath in for 2, breath out for 2. As always, I can't do the breathing and talk, so I'm just going to go a bit quiet for a moment. And just a few. Just going to have a little rest there. I'm going to rest back down. Do whatever you feel that the need to do. Let your legs roll from side to side if that feels good for you. So remembering, if we were doing all 34 exercises, and bearing in mind I only ever do 24 of the 34, but if that was our whole class, we would actually only do 5 or 6 of each thing. Sometimes it's in 3s, sometimes it's in 5 or 6. So it's absolutely 100% about quality rather than quantity. So let's do our next exercise, which is double leg stretch. Again, your spine is in that nice rounded position. So I'm creating that rounded position, especially in the lower tummy, by really strongly pulling my belly button in, rounding my lower back. Pulling that in, even though when you bring your knees in here, that lower back is going to push into the floor, but make it work even more. So elbows out to the side, keeping your head above your shoulders so that you're not straining the neck by being back here. The head is heavy, so you're using those upper abdominals as well to stay here. We're going to take the legs out, we're going to take the arms straight up but not too far back, circling the arms round, coming back on top of your shins. Breath in, I like to do breath out, I think, or the other way. Breath in, breath out. So I'm sort of taking my top hat off, but you could just go straight up and back. A little bit more challenging maybe. The goal is not to let that back flatten out, absolutely not to let that lower back arch come back into neutral. Woo, and have a little relax there. Good. So far, we haven't done any new exercises from the last one, but we're about to do our first one, which is crisscross. Same thing, so we're combining our C curve in the spine for rolling like a ball, and we're combining our single leg stretch, and we're adding the twist of the upper body, which brings those obliques in. This is tough. We're going to do one and hold, and then we'll lower the amount of time we hold it, and then we'll do the singles at the end. So, coming back into your tight ball position, as if you're rolling like a ball. Fingertips behind your head, but you haven't got space to interlace them really. Extend one leg, bring the opposite elbow to that knee. If you can, touch that elbow to that knee. Hold it 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Switch 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Switch 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Switch 6, 5, 4, 3, 2,
1, switch 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, switch 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, switch 4, 3, 2, 1, switch 4, 3, 2, 1, switch 3, 2, 1, switch 3, 2, 1, switch 2, 1, switch 2, 1, singles, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and collapse. Hug those knees in, cross the ankles over, rolling the legs around, whatever feels right for you. You might want to just let your head roll from side to side and try not to do it too much because my hair's going to all fall out. Whew, take a nice deep breath. So even that was a little bit longer than normal, but hopefully that gave you a nice challenge. So that was our crisscross. We are sitting up, so nowhere near as strenuous now. The next one, number 6 of our 13, is our spine stretch forwards, and this is quite specific in how you do this. It's not a hinge from your hips. This is one of the ones we did last time. You're starting really nice and upright on those sit bones in a neutral spine. This is where the hamstring length comes into play. We're going to bring our arms forward, so our arms are parallel to the legs to the floor. We're going to sort of take a roll down with the upper body. So chin goes onto the chest. We collapse in that chest and we reach forwards over a ball. So you're pulling forwards and you're holding it there. Again, I'm pulling my tummy back. My pelvis is still in neutral. My sit bones are equally as weighted as they were just now. My shoulders are drawn down in my back, a little bit more than they were just now. I thought of that. My arms are sort of by my ears-ish, and then from there I'm going to stack the vertebrae, starting in the lower back, stacking the vertebrae one on top of each other, and that's it. I'm going to relax, go again a couple more times. So we're here. I'm flexing the feet so that my legs are nice and straight. Keeping that pelvis in neutral, so remember it's not a reach forwards. When I start, my fingertips, the ends of my fingertips are just above my shin, about here. When I finish, my fingertips are going past my toes. So chin onto the chest, rounding, but I'm pulling back with my ribs, pulling back with my tummy, but not changing the shape of the pelvis, reaching forwards. It's like someone's trying to rescue you. They're holding onto your hands. Someone's pulling you in this direction, forwards, past your feet. Someone else doesn't want you to go, doesn't want you to be rescued. They've got their hands around your hips and your waist, and they're pulling you back in the opposite direction. Take a nice couple of deep breaths here. Feel the rib cage expanding in your back. And stacking the vertebrae, let's relax those feet. Let's take one more. Flex the feet, chin onto the chest, rounding, scooping. Lengthening forwards, feeling the stretch from that heel all the way up the back of your leg, the back line of your body out through your fingertips. Like a big magnet, a big U shape, a very long U shape, I must admit. There, great. Okay, the next one, which is the second one of our add-ons today, is the open leg rocker. So we're sort of combining what we've just done with our rolling like a ball. Opening up the legs a little bit more. Let's come back to a seated C-curve balance actually, it's just as a preparation for this. So hands underneath the backs of the knees, feet together, knees a little bit apart. You're going to take that seated C-curve by tucking the pelvis under. Come into a balance. Toes are on the floor, my legs are where they are, my pelvis is really tucked under, my spine is rounded, shoulders are down, elbows are lifted. Just straightening one leg and then bringing the toes back down. Straightening, cramp today, straightening the other leg and toes back down. Singles, 4 singles,
Now because of the pelvis being tucked under, hopefully even if you've got quite tight hamstrings, that should be available to you. 2 straight legs hanging onto the ankles. Doesn't have to be straight legs, it can be slightly bent legs, but just fix them. And again, I've got that sensation of hanging back into the back line of my body. Just going to scoot forwards a little bit. So we're here. This is the start and the end of our open leg rocker. I've allowed my arms to straighten, and the same as I did with rolling like a ball, scooping the tummy in, rolling back, coming up to a balance. Now I've stayed in my C curve, so let's go again. Rolling back, coming up. I've stayed in my C curve here, but actually to prepare for things like the teaser, which we're actually not going to do anyway, but you want your pelvis to stay tucked under, and then you want to try and lift the chest and open up the collarbone. So lower back is still rounded, tucked under, rolling back, coming up, finding that biting point, and sitting tall. 2 more, rounding back, up to the top. And as you can probably see, there's quite a lot of adjustment going on in my hip flexors, just in that, didn't quite make that one, too busy talking, just in that sort of pelvic area. And then we're there. Whew. Good job, a little bit grippy in the hip flexors. That was our open leg rocker. Fantastic. Let's come down onto our backs. Let's use that seated C curve, part of the preparation for rolling up, but that's the next class. We're rounding the back, scooping that tummy. You can see how this is such an important movement, that articulation of the spine in all of our Pilates. So settle yourselves down on the mat. Bring your legs in. Think about, so feet and knees are hip width apart. Think about the neutral spine. Natural curve in the lower back, natural curve in the nape of the neck. Pick your leggings up if you need to. Make sure your pelvis is in neutral, pubic bone and hip bones on the same plane. Are all of your ribs at the back of your body relaxed and melted into the mat? Or are you a little bit stressed and you're a little bit too lifted? Are the ribs at the front relaxed and soft into the mat? Collarbone nice and open. We're just going to take a straight bridge, which is number 8. Yeah, straight bridge. So number 8 of our 13 classical mat exercises today. So we're just keeping it really simple. Today we're pushing down through the feet, all the way around both feet. We're activating the buttocks straight away. We're focusing on opening up at the front of the hips, where for me I'm particularly tight there. Keeping those knees in line with your hips, not letting the knees roll out. And then coming straight back down for the moment. Pushing down. So this is a pure strength exercise. When you lower the hips, keep them activated, keep the buttocks activated, keep the tension going. It's a hinge, it's the opening up of this hinge at the hip. Nothing else in the spine is changing. We're not articulating the spine at the moment. Great, then let's go up with the hips as high as you can. Hold it there. This time we're going to take the arms up and over to the floor behind you. And I'm just going to need to shuffle down a little bit again. So hips are up nice and high. The arms have gone up and over. Start to reverse peel down through your spine, so we're articulating the spine. Notice as soon as you take those ribs down and you start to put your upper back into the mat, my arms have started to slightly lift off of the floor. That's absolutely fine. Tuck that pelvis under, push those lower back vertebrae into the mat, release to neutral, and now bring your arms up. Straighten out your arms. As you do this, slide your shoulder blades down in your back. Come to this holding up the ceiling position.
with your hands. So the heels of my palms are reaching forwards. From here, I'm actively going to slide my shoulder blades down in my back, give myself a little armpit hug, and strongly connect the rib cage to the hips at the front. I'm going to let my arms continue, and as my fingertips go out of my vision, I'm going to tuck my chin in and reach the arms forwards. So those of you that know your Pilates will know exactly what we're about to, what this preparation is for. We're prepping for the 100, but what I want you to feel is that nothing has changed in that torso. The arms are parallel to the floor, chin is tucked in, I've cleared my shoulder blades, I've connected everything around in that upper body. Let's just lower down and go again with that feeling. That setting of the torso. So absolutely staying in neutral is the whole point of when you do the 100. So straight up with the hips. Take a nice breath out. See if you can really activate those sit bones. Up and over with the arms. Reaching down. Articulating through the spine, one vertebrae at a time. As you bring those arms up, draw the shoulder blades down. Stretch your fingertips back, so it's like you're holding up the ceiling. This just gives you that nice sense of almost pushing through treacle with the arms. As those fingertips go out of your peripheral vision, tuck your chin in, clear your shoulder blades, reach your fingertips towards your feet. Check your position. Are you still in a good neutral? Do you feel nice and strong and connected around that rib cage and that torso? If so, if that's a yes from you, keep the feet down. We're pumping the arms, breath in. 2, 4, 5 and out. 2, 3, 4, 10. In, 2, 3, 4, 5 and out. 2, 20. In, 2, 3, 4, 5 and out. 2, 3, 4, 30. In, 2, 3, 4, 5 and out. 2, 3, 40. In, 2, 3, 4, 5 and out. 2, 3, 4, 50. Count the next set of 50 for yourself. Checking everything. Is the rib cage connected to the hips? Is your lower back in neutral? Is it only your arms pulsing, or is the head jumping around as well? I have no idea how many you've done. If it's starting to hurt your neck, push the tongue onto the roof of the mouth. Oh, I think that's more than enough. I'm going to stop. Well done. So that was the classic 100. Not something I do very often, but a good exercise in just finding that rigid torso and moving those arms nice and strongly. Obviously we did it with the feet on the floor. That's the easiest version of that one. Great, okay, we're coming over onto our, onto our fronts and into a plank position. So come up onto all fours. We're going to do the leg pull down. So it's basically when you're doing the leg pull down, the body is facing down towards the floor. Leg pull up, the body is facing up towards the ceiling. It's essentially a plank. So hands underneath your shoulders, find your good square box position with your knees underneath your hips. Slide those shoulder blades down in your back. Spread the fingers and the thumbs apart. Make sure your shoulders are over your hands, you're pitched forwards a little bit. We're straightening out one leg, straightening out the other leg until you come into your plank position. Leg pull looks like this. You're going to release one foot. For today, I just want you to point your foot and pulse backwards on the other heel so that you're stretching your Achilles. 3 times, replace that foot. Lift the other foot, point the foot, pulse 3 times. So rocking forwards and backwards. Place the foot down, drop the knees down, have a little rest if you would like to. Let's do another 2 sets of these. 3 pulses on each foot. The ideal is that the hips don't drop, don't rock and roll around from side to side. Coming back into your square box position. Try and start with a different foot to the one you would normally do. So I'm going to use my back leg first. So 3, 2, 1. Place the foot down. Point the foot. So no dropping in those hips, either sagging to the floor or rocking and rolling. Coming back down. Have a little rest. Have a little sway from side to side.
Breathe. Move those hands around, move those wrists around. Great, last one. Straight line with that plank, releasing the foot. 3, 2, 1, and replace. And 3, 2, 1, and replace, and lower both knees down. Good job. Number 10, that was 3 exercises to go. We're lying on our tummies next for single leg kicks. Single leg kicks is something that I personally find particularly difficult. If you're quite tight in the front of your hips, your hip flexors, and you've got quite a curve in your lower back, this might be as challenging as it is for me. Most of my clients don't find this a problem at all. It's just a little mandyism. But let's look at it. So let's look at the actual exercise. So the actual exercise is down on your elbows. Elbows underneath the shoulders, legs together. And again here I want to turn my legs out, but stay nice and parallel. So the idea is to be lifted up out of the floor. And the movement, one leg at a time, we're going to bend the knee, and already my pelvis is wanting to twist. We're going to point the foot, we're pulsing the foot towards the butt, if you like. So point, flex, point, and lower. And point, flex, point, and lower. Getting cramp in my feet today. So for me, where I'm tight, my hips want to do this. My hips want to rock and roll. As soon as I start to bend that leg, it's stretching all along here. So I'm going to do this exercise lying on my tummy. You might want to join me, you might want to stay where you were. I'm going to keep my shoulders lifted up away from the floor. I'm going to pop my hands underneath my hips and my pelvis. So there's a little bit of work going on in the upper body, which is good for our stamina. Keeping the chin tucked in, keeping the back of the neck nice and long. Legs parallel. I'm crushing both palms with my hip bones. And at the moment, everything's nice and even. I'm going to do that same thing. So pointing the foot, flexing the foot, pointing the foot, lowering, swapping sides. Pointing and flexing and pointing and lowering. So I have less movement, I have less movement in my pelvis, but I can still feel a little bit because it's still tight for me. So now I'm going to really concentrate on connecting at the front of the body. Even though we're lying on our tummy, draw the rib cage down, draw the shoulder blades down in the back, lift the pelvic floor, switch this centre, switch this core on. And that should make all the difference if you're noticing that you're feeling a little bit of rocking and rolling from side to side. I'm going to start with my other leg. Let's do 2 more steps. Point, flex, point and lower, point, flex, point and lower, flex, point and lower. Last one, point, flex, point and lower, and relax. Perfect. That's our single leg kicks. Let's have a look at double leg kicks. I find this one even harder. So we're going to take the hands to the back of the body, and just if you can, as long as this is all right on your shoulders, turn your head to the side and let your head relax down. This in itself can be quite uncomfortable if that neck's a little bit tight. The shoulders can round forwards, and as long as you're okay in your shoulders, then let the hands be in the small of the back. This time we're taking both legs together at the same time. We're going to stay on the side, we're going to bend, pointing, flexing, pointing. As you extend this time, lift your chest, straighten out your arms, open up the shoulders, straighten the legs, lift them off the floor, look straight down at the floor, and then bend your arms, bend your legs in, turn your head to the other side for 3, 2, 1, or you could actually keep both feet pointed all the time. I think that's probably a little bit more appropriate here. So pin those shoulders back, lift the back. This is very strong. I'm going to keep my feet pointed all the time. We're going to do 2 more sets. 3, 2, 1. Trying to keep your knees together. My knees want to come apart. Lifting up. Last one. 3, 2, 1. Extend the legs. Lift that back. Stretch the arms down. Woo! Well done. And relax. That's one of my least favourite exercises in the classical mat repertoire, and I find it really, really challenging. But some things are obviously more challenging than others. So that was our single and double leg kicks. We're going to finish off with swimming. It's a little bit more comfortable, but the same principles. We're looking to strengthen the back line of the body. But even though we're thinking about the back line of the body, connect your body at the front. So let's open out the arms and the legs into a bit of a star. Tip of the nose starts touching the floor, and then just lift the back of the head and neck up so that your back of your head and neck is in line. Connect at the front of your body. So push your pubic bone into the mat very slightly. Connect your rib cage to your hips at the front. Draw those shoulder blades down in your back. We're going to lift opposite arm and leg off of the floor and then place down. And then swap sides. Lift and lower. Creating a diagonal line with absolutely no rotation in the shoulder girdle or the hips. So from side to side of your body, at your hips and at your shoulders, no rocking and rolling. It's like two scaffolding poles. They're staying absolutely parallel to the floor. So alternating, lifting and lowering opposite sides. Now let's lift all 4 limbs off. Just hold them off, hovering off. Now touch opposite arm and leg to the floor. Lift back up. Touch and touch and touch and touch and touch. The movement is coming from the shoulder and the hip, not the elbow, not the knee, not the ankle, not the wrist. Got a little bit out of sync there. And then as you get a bit faster, if you can, try and go really fast. So now it's a pitter patter, 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 and I feel like I've gone slightly crazy doing this one, but so let's come up onto all fours. Have a good old wiggle about, as always. Whatever feels right for you. I'm going to take some spine circles. I'm going to curl my toes under. I'm actually going to push back into a full deep squat or a crouch for me because my heels are off the floor first of all. Just want to move those ankles around and toes and knees. Then I'm going to come up into my default downward dog. Walk through those feet. Maybe take a little bit of a sexy bear, crossing the leg over. Coming back down. Knees nice and wide, toes together, arms wide. Take a sway from side to side. There's the first and last rhyme of class. Maybe thread the needle through, have a little roll over that shoulder. Swapping sides. Anything else that feels appropriate for you. Rolling up through the spine. Coming into this kneeling position if you can. Well done. That was classical mat exercises, 13 of them. Number 2, class number 2. I hope to see you next time.